Banksy is easily the most mysterious artist alive. No one knows his true identity, despite the fact that he is adored all over the world. The graffiti artist could cash in on his celebrity status, but instead, he prefers to live in the shadows. Today, we're exploring 10 things you didn't know about Banksy. Even after several years in the spotlight, Banksy is still totally anonymous. He prefers to place his paintings at unexpected locations around the world and leave the public to scratch their heads. But after each successive stunt, his fans pose the question, who exactly is Banksy? The artist started making street art in Bristol, UK in the 90s. He quickly became notorious among other street artists, and soon Banksy began travelling the world, leaving his mark in Palestine, New York City and France, among many other places. There are several prominent theories about Banksy's true identity. Some believe that he is an artist named Robin Banks. In January 2015, a British teenager claimed that a man introducing himself as Robin Banks gave him a print signed by Banksy on a train in Oxenholme, England, after the young man helped the artist pick up paint cans that fell out of his carry-on bag. Banksy reportedly told the boy that the picture was worth $24,000. But the most common theory is that Banksy is a Bristol-based artist named Robin Gunningham. Criminologists at London's Queen Mary University used a technique called geographic profiling to identify the street artist as Bristol resident Robin Gunningham. Geographic profiling is a sophisticated statistical analysis technique used in criminology to locate repeat offenders. The researchers looked for a correlation between 140 artworks in London and Bristol attributed to Banksy and 10 commonly touted names purported to be the elusive street artist. Banksy is notoriously anti-commercial and prefers not to sell his art, even though he could easily make millions. Ironically, this tends to drive up the value of his art, which is often scraped from the walls and resold to museums or private collectors. His most expensive piece to date is a satirical painting called Devolved Parliament, which shows the British legislature with chimpanzees instead of humans. The painting sold for £9.9 million. After the news was announced, Banksy got on his Instagram to say, the price of a work of art is now part of its function. Its new job is to sit on the wall and get more expensive. In his eyes, this sale was also a statement about commercialism in art. His second most valuable painting, Show Me the Monet, sold for £7.5 million in 2020. This picture features a scene reminiscent of Claude Monet's famous water lilies, but the landscape has been ruined by shopping carts and traffic cones. Even though the painting was made in 2005, it's still relevant today. Banksy said of the piece, the real damage done to our environment is not by graffiti writers and drunken teenagers, but by big businesses. Exactly the people who put gold-framed pictures of landscapes on their walls and try to tell the rest of us how to behave. Though London is widely seen as the most natural habitat for British artists, Banksy is unabashedly patriotic about his hometown, Bristol. Born in 1974, Banksy is the son of a photocopier technician. From these modest beginnings, he learned how to graffiti with his group known as Dry Bread's Crew. Of course, Banksy still loves to travel the world, but he returns to Bristol frequently, and locals are generally unsurprised to see one of his paintings appear overnight. Speaking of Bristol, Banksy pulled a stunt back in 2009 with the intention of helping his beloved hometown. He rented the Bristol Art Museum for £1 in an event called Banksy vs Bristol Museum. Overnight, Banksy took the classy and well-respected museum and used his playful brand of street art to transform it into something entirely different. Banksy paintings were placed in amongst the historic collection of old masters, sculptures, and other pieces dotted around throughout the museum displays. The main entrance was transformed into a sculptural hall, accompanied by a burnt-out ice cream van that pumped out an eerie soundtrack of warped tunes, whilst a giant ice cream melted on its roof. In all, there were more than 100 Banksy works on display, the most in history, and this tourist attraction raised tens of millions of dollars for Bristol's economy. In 2007, Banksy won the prize for the greatest living Briton. Of course, Banksy has never enjoyed the spotlight and he did not accept the award. Other contenders were the Queen of England, Julia Andrews, and Paul McCartney. Despite the fact that Banksy was once considered a vandal in the town of Britain, they had a change of heart when he became popular. Now, the local government encourages youth to practice street art with the hopes that one of them will become the next Banksy. Banksy is known for his critiques of capitalism, the fine art world, and hypocrisy in general. He is also very sympathetic to the residents of Palestine and has painted murals all over Gaza and the West Bank in solidarity with its people. In July 2020, Banksy decided to auction 3 paintings worth a total of $2.9 million in order to fund a hospital in Bethlehem, Palestine. The paintings themselves are called Mediterranean Sea View 2017, and they are intended to draw attention to the European refugee crisis. The paintings were donated to ABCD Bethlehem Bethlehem, a non-profit group that supports Palestinian children with disabilities. The proceeds from the auction will go towards building an acute stroke unit and purchasing children's rehabilitation equipment for Bethlehem Arab Society for Rehabilitation. Despite his ongoing attempts to keep his identity hidden, Banksy wrote a book in 2007 called Wall and Peace. In addition to high-definition prints of his artwork, the book includes original text explaining Banksy's outlook on the world. It's full of now classic quotations such as, "Sometimes I feel so sick of the state of the world, I can't even finish my second apple pie." Banksy also released a celebrated feature film in 2010 called Exit Through the Gift Shop. The fake documentary is intended to be a critique of the art world. In 2004, Banksy printed a pile of fake £10 notes. The notes featured the late Princess Diana in place of Queen Elizabeth II, which was deemed very controversial by some people. But 15 years later, it was accepted into the permanent collection at the British Museum, proving Banksy's ascent from rebellious youth to art royalty. Though the money is fake, it's now worth much more than £10. As part of a stunt, Banksy hired someone to sell his original artwork for $60 each on the streets of New York. His intention was to show that without the aura of originality, no one would be willing to buy his paintings. The prank worked, he only sold a few prints. Banksy had an elderly man set up shop at the stall, and according to a video pasted on the artist's website, it took about 4 hours before the man made his first sale. A sign read, "Spray art, $60. A lady buys 2 small canvases for her children, but only after negotiating a 50% discount, Banksy wrote on the video. The New Zealand woman bought 2 signed Banksy pieces for $60. The next day, he posted the video showing the whole process. The public was shocked, and the handful of lucky patrons now had artwork valued at $20,000 for each piece. Because Banksy refuses to do interviews, little is known about his artistic sensibilities, but recently he has opened up about his influences. One is Art, a French stencilist who has been using graffiti since the beginning of the 1980s, as well as Ernest Pignon Ernest, a Parisian plastic artist contributing to the urban scene for more than 30 years. The similarities are very small but noticeable. For example, the mark of Art is a little rat made with stencils, very similar to the rats often illustrated by Banksy. In one quote, Banksy said, "Every time I think I've painted something slightly original, I found out that Art has done it as well, only 20 years earlier." Art has said about Banksy, "I consider him like my descendant. He took some ideas, but he changed them, and he took the movement to a huge level." Many people compare Banksy's art to Andy Warhol for his use of marketing tropes to critique capitalism. Even though Banksy has never explicitly endorsed Warhol's art, he did recreate one of his famous soup cans in 2006. So what do you think? Is Banksy an artistic genius or is he overrated? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe and turn notifications on for more interesting videos.